Summer is at its peak, as we just saw, and the summer movie season is in full swing as well. With that, we are seeing competition heating up on the big screen among Korean films of various genres, moods, and approaches. Which films are currently capturing the hearts of the audience? Let's have a chat with our movie expert, Jae Soh, professor and filmmaker at Seoul Institute of the Arts. Welcome back, Professor Soh.
Nice to be back.
All right, let's start off with the movie that's been ranked first in the past 9 days straight. It's 좀비딸 in Korean, and My Daughter is a Zombie. So what is the film about, and why are people loving it?
It's directed by Soh, and it's based on a webtoon, as you mentioned, by Yoon Chang. And it has some great stars in it. We have Cho Seok, who's really great at both drama and comedy. And then the two cast members from Parasite, Lee Jung-eun and Jo Yo-jung, and the daughter's played by Chae Yuri. And basically, it's a story about, I don't know if you know the movie Warm Bodies, but it's a story that centers on a father-son, father-daughter relationship where the daughter is a zombie, and he's trying to basically hide her from the world, and basically Korea has an apocalypse happening. So right now, it's done really well in the box office, as you mentioned, #1. As of today, it's like 2.51 million tickets have sold and continue to be doing well. And I think it's really great because it's a summer movie. And again, it's a movie where we're not seeing, it's funny and it's about the apocalypse, but it's like trying to treat a zombie as a human being. It's basically the main, sort of thrust behind the movie.
Right. And I think pundits are saying this weekend it might even easily surpass 3 million viewers. But let's talk a little bit more about this movie, which is, as you said, based on a hit webtoon. And the film has been receiving praise for its resemblance to the original work, including the cat that's in the movie
and
there.
The cat's one of the greatest things about it. They were going to use CG and real cat, but the cat was so good.
Right.
The Cat Wranglers was able to do a lot of, and actually when I was watching in the theaters, when the cat came out, the audience really loved it. So, but I think the movie works because, it's instead of concentrating on, being chased by zombies like Train to Busan, things like that, it takes on sort of a more comic flair. Imagine if one of your family members becomes, a zombie, and you're trying to keep it a secret, and now it's illegal in Korea to, because of the virus and everything. So, they're trying to keep it a secret. So, there's a lot of humor from it, but at the same time, it has a social commentary about sort of, is it safe to do something that's against society? Because it involves a family member. So it has that kind of commentary behind it. And then it's the typical Korean thing called shimpa. And it's a whole emotional, sort of sentimental thing that is happening about where the audience feels a sense of emotional investment into the character. But it kind of drifts apart from the original webtoon as well. The ending's kind of different. And I think when I saw the webtoon, it's really cute, the cat especially. But in this one, because it's played by Cho Seok, and you have all these, great acting happening in it, it kind of took me away from what the webtoon was really about, and it was its own kind of creation. And I think it really, in a weird way, it worked with the audiences. Right now, as you know, we had elections, but the world is in flux with all the things that America's doing with tariffs and things like that. So I think this is a really good escape movie to go to see, and I think that's why a lot of people are flocking to see it.
So based on what you just mentioned, it's not necessarily because there's a big similarity to the original work that this is a success. So in some cases, it's because it is similar. In some cases, it's actually a success even if it's not similar.
Yeah, it works on its own, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I think all the characters kind of work in it. And, the fact that we're watching something that's an apocalypse, and a lot of the genre of zombies about people always being in the dark, but it's very humorous. And Cho Yo-jung comes out where basically it's his old flame and she hates zombies. So you added all that. The cat keeps coming up, and they even escape to an island to re-educate the daughter to live as a normal person. They put makeup. And there's a lot of elements that really worked in it.
I think Koreans really do well with zombie movies. If you think of Train to Busan, you think of The Kingdom, and you think of this movie now, I think we're doing really well. But let's move on to the web novel-based movie, Omniscient Reader, okay? So over 1 million have watched it by now, and it's also seen success overseas. Now, this one was the highly anticipated one of the highly anticipated movies of the second half of the year. How is this work appealing to the audiences?
Unfortunately, it's actually like it's a novel-based thing that was made into a webtoons as well. So, but at the same time, the amount of anticipation for the storytelling and then what the actual movie came out to be is very different. It's directed by Kim Byung-woo and has Jae Soh and Lee Min-ho, and it's the casting is really stellar. But at the same time, it's only managed to garner 1 million tickets at the box office. It's been out for a while now, And the reason for that is I went to see it, and I think I've read the novel, and I also followed the webtoon. So, in anticipation for all the stuff that's kind of fantastical, I think they delivered on the CG and things like that. But again, it's the reason I think it hasn't really succeeded is the depth of the characters is kind of very one-dimensional the way they did it. And I always thought it's a very long story. So it would have worked better as a sort of a streaming sort of series instead of one single movie. There's too much in it. And then basically, if you don't know the actual novel, there's a lot of game rules that are happening because it's sort of a fantasy game where it becomes reality, right? So, they did really great stuff on Dongho Bridge. There's a lot of stuff that's happening, but at the same time, if you didn't know the story, like the sort of the actual original material, you might be confused as to what the rules of the game are. So I think in that sense, the audiences didn't really take to it that well.
Yeah, like you've said, there was a lot of disappointment with there. There were some praises, obviously, and you said they were in the visual department as well. Is there anything that you might have personally changed yourself, or something that you think that was probably missing from the movie?
Gosh, there's so much. But it's, I'm a director too, and I don't want to, basically criticize another director's work, but I think he had a lot of stuff to work with here. Again, it's a massive story, so in a way you had to pare it down to simplicity, and I think when you watch it, there's just too much happening all at once. So I think, if they kind of simplified the story a little bit and concentrated. The main theme of the novel is basically when you have this sort of disaster happening, it's about sort of mutual support. It's there's a lot of characters that have to kind of work together, and they have to, buy the coins, get the power, and they use it together to sort of defeat what, the bad guys or the powers that be. So, but I think, again, as a single standalone feature film, it's kind of hard to put this massive amount of material into this. The producer, Realize Pictures, did this, and they're with Along the God series, which is also a series, right? You have a series of movies happening. So I think it was just too much of lots of fan base ready to see it. So they really didn't like the way the movie came out. And then the people watching it for the first time, you have to kind of explain what's going on in terms of just the game rules and sort of simplicity. And then I think if you built up the characters a little stronger. Right now there's too much happening, and you don't really have enough time for sort of going into each character, what they want and their emotionals.
Right, that's why maybe I felt a little overwhelmed when I saw the trailer at first, because it really felt like so much is happening. But let's move over to a movie that's not out yet. Pretty Crazy is the title, or 악마가 이사 왔다, which would actually mean the demon just moved in as our neighbors. But this is a mystery comedy film with a totally new script, so it's not based on something else like a novel or a webtoon. So what are your expectations on this one?
Well, this one is by director Lee Sung-gun, who did Exit with, we have girls, 소녀시대, so Yuna in it. And we also have An Boyeon, Son Dong-in, and Ju Yeon-young in it. So it's a comedy, and it's basically a story about a woman who lives beneath the main character, and she, from somewhere in 2 a.m. in the morning until a certain hour, turns into a devil. So it's kind of like the old Jekyll and Hyde. So she's a baker, very 착해, she's nice, during the day, and then suddenly at night she turns into a total devil. So in the trailer that I watched, there's a lot of comical stuff happening. And this movie was actually completed in 2022, but because of the pandemic, they kind of delayed it. So the director spent a lot of time sort of perfecting sort of all the CG in it and all the storytelling, the editing, and I think I'm really looking forward to it. Exit was a really good movie, so I think this one's going to be sort of in the vein of maybe going off of, my daughter's a zombie, so that kind of comedy is now really sort of popular with audiences.
So it's kind of going to be Yuna rivaling Jo Jung-seok because those two were actually the main characters of
For
Exit.
yeah.
That's right.
But last but not least, very briefly, Professor Soh, the movies that we just talked about, they are also targeted at the global audience. And actually, Omniscient Reader has been doing very well overseas as well. So what do you say? How's the potential of a being successful on the global stage with these recent productions?
Well, they really found that out with during the pandemic with Squid Game, and obviously people started to watch everything that was Korean, and one of the most popular genres is horror and then science fiction, and so far Korean material have really sort of resounded with international audiences. For example, Exuma did really well in Korea, but also it did fantastical in Vietnam. So not only in the West, but I think in Southeast Asia and in China, a lot of Korean genre movies are finding a home there. But I think with Train to Busan and with My Daughter's a Zombie, these are movies I think they're making it not just for the Korean audiences, but I think international audience. And I think first of all, it's closer to Asian people. We're Korean, we're Asian as well. So there is sort of a kinship to that. But at the same time, I think with Squid Game and Parasite, even American or European audiences find these kind of genres really easy to do. I think horror, zombie, sci-fi, these are genres that are just like globally always sort of in demand. So I think especially horror movies coming out from Southeast Asia now, like Malaysia and things like that, are really starting to hit the international markets. So I think it's really good news for filmmakers in Korea because, right now theatrically we're not doing that well. A lot of people aren't going to see movies in the theater, even though everywhere else they are. So I think just the fact that Koreans seem to be really crazy if everybody else is around the world. So maybe that'll really help people to bring them back to the theaters in Korea as well. So all these movies do have an international market for sure.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Soh, for your insights today, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Professor.
You too.
And thank you, Walter, as always. We're going to see you back next week.
See you next week.